Welcome to the Pivot Experience podcast, where leadership transformation isn't just a concept, it's a journey we take together. This is where real leaders share real stories about the moments that changed everything. In each episode, we dive deep into the pivotal experiences that transformed good leaders into great ones. Whether you're a seasoned executive, a rising star in your organization, or someone ready to take that next big step in your leadership journey, you're in the right place. Get ready to learn, grow, and maybe even find that spark that ignites your own leadership pivot. This is the Pivot Experience podcast, where your next breakthrough starts here.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. Hey, listen, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe this channel so you can continue to pivot into your next.
What's up and what's happening, TPE family? We're back with another episode of the Pivot Experience podcast, where our aim and goal is always to help leaders pivot into their next. My name is Alex Seal, and I've had the joy and the pleasure for working for one of the world's most caring companies for the last 22 years. And in that experience, I've learned a lot of things about growing business, developing business, and most importantly, the power of relationships. And on our podcast, as you guys know, we like to have guests on that we feel will bring you some experience and bring you some words of wisdom that will help you get into the next level in your journey. On today, we have nothing any different from our regular scheduled programming. We're bringing on high value guests. Today, we have Borja Cuan on today with us. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I can't complain. The weather here in Texas is getting a whole lot better, starting to stabilize. That time of year where we cannot have to expect snow one day and it being 80 degrees the next day. Things are starting to level out a little bit as we coast into the summer, so I can't complain. How are things going on your end?
Excellent. Yeah. Been a great week, professionally and personally. And California, we're having some great weather here. Looking forward to spring this Thursday. Tomorrow, I believe, is the official first day of spring. Looking forward to that.
Excellent, man. Excellent. So I typically like to let you guys know how I have become into an acquaintance with our guests. And today it's a bit special. I was scoring, looking through my emails, and I happened to see an email from this young man, and I did some research on him, and I think his story is going to be really interesting, but I don't want to steal any of his thunder. I don't want to take any of his fire. I want him to introduce himself and what he does to you all. So Borja, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so professionally, I have been in the digital marketing space for 24 years. I started my career right out of college, working for an internet startup based in Boston, Massachusetts, and ended up with that company for 8 years. And then from that company, I decided to move out to the West Coast and continue my career in digital marketing, working for another company. With that company for 6 years, so that's 14 years. And then after 6 years with that company, did some consulting and affiliate marketing on my own as an independent contractor, which led me to a position working for a business in San Francisco, a company in San Francisco, joining their growth team, overseeing a budget of about $120 million in annual ad spend. And it is there where I met my current business partner and co-founder, Mike Nelson. We overlapped there for 2 years, and then I left that company. And shortly after I left, he came to me with the idea of starting a growth agency. I sat on that offer for about 3 weeks. I didn't give him an instant response or commitment. I really wanted to think about it. And after 3 weeks of thinking through it, I decided to agree to that. And so here we are, 8 years into owning a digital marketing business.
So why digital marketing? You seem to have a digital marketing has a special place in your heart, so it seems. And so what has been the appeal of keeping you there? Or what got you started in the digital marketing? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't even something that I was interested in, frankly. This is, I didn't specify the year in which I graduated, but I think providing that to you now is going to make more sense. But in 1998 is when I started in the career, which at the time the concept of the internet was new, right? This is many years ago. Now people would say, "Oh, who doesn't know, the internet?" But this is back in 1998. So when I graduated from college, initially, actually, I was interested in hospitality and becoming a general manager at a five-star hotel. Throughout high school, during the summer months, I worked at a hotel near where I lived. And then during college, I interned at the Hotel Ritz in Madrid, Spain for a year, did a comprehensive internship program there, learning all facets related to sort of hotel management, housekeeping, food and beverage, front desk, guest relations. I really learned a tremendous amount. So I'd always been in positions serving customers, understanding what that meant, involved in an industry that was very demanding in terms of time, uh, and um, and so that was what I was interested in: hospitality, working for a hotel. But I ended up changing directions. I connected with a headhunter when I graduated, and they came to me and said, "Hey, we have an interview at a startup company. Are you interested in the position?" And I said, "Sure." I was kind of like, "Hey, there's an opportunity. I'm not in a position to say no." Interviewed there, didn't actually get the job I applied for, and then was received a call the following day saying, "We have another position that we think you might be more appropriately suited for," which was junior to the position that I applied for. But I was okay with that. It was an entry point. I ended up getting that job and then learning more about that industry because it was so new, and really liking what I was doing, the people I was meeting, the opportunities it provided. And so basically I stayed, that's where I developed a skill set and a knowledge base, and that carried me through my career.
Awesome. And so I want to kind of delve a little bit into this idea from, and correct me if I'm wrong, you initially embarked on this journey of marketing, digital marketing, as you worked for a company. Now you've had the pleasure of being an entrepreneur yourself. What are some of those key differences? Like what do you miss about being an employee? And then what do you love about being an entrepreneur?
I don't miss anything about being an employer. I love being in control of my own destiny.
Yeah.
I was an employee for many years, and I don't really look back and say I miss anything. I enjoyed my time as an employee, working for a company. But I think entrepreneurs understand the difference, and they value the benefits that come along with being an entrepreneur. So therefore, they don't really miss being an employee. I think uh, one could say what's great about being an employee is when you go on PTO or vacation, you can check out, right? As an entrepreneur, at least for me at this point in my career, I'm only 8 years into being a business owner. So maybe at 20 years, I'll have a different answer to that. You kind of never unplug. It's always on your mind. You're always thinking about some of the challenges or opportunities for the business. How do we improve the current solution offering? What other areas can we expand into to help and provide more value to our customers? So it's one of these things where you just can't turn it off no matter what. If I go to Hawaii, I'm still working in the mornings. If I'm traveling on vacation, I'm still finding an hour or two to do work. But the thing is it never really feels like work. And as cliche as that sounds, and we've heard that statement before, it's when you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work. It's so true. Like I am working, but it's not really causing an inconvenience in my head. In my head, it's like this is part of being a business owner. You have responsibility, you're employing people, you have customers. I mean, so for me, it's one of these things where it affords me so many opportunities that it's part of what it takes to be successful in business. And that's what you have to do.
No, I absolutely love that answer. I would imagine, when I ask you that you're not going to miss anything about it. I also would say though, you probably learned a lot of what to do and what not to do in your business being in the position of an employee, right? And so, okay, maybe you speak into some of those lessons that you learned on both sides of those coin that you bring into your business today.
Yeah, this was something that I learned very on in my career. When I was young, I always gravitated to older people in terms of age, in terms of experience. For whatever reason, I was always interested in observing people around me that were very successful. And I instantly became sort of uh, sort of interested in connecting with them and saying, "Hey, would you mind taking me under your wing? Will you, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Can we do lunch? I'd love for you to sort of mentor me, coach me. I want to learn from you." I learned a lot from those people, and they actually took me up on that. Many of them were very supportive and sort of helping me during my career. And I think, when one of the things that I remember one of the executives at that first company that I worked for saying, which by the way, to date was probably the most fulfilling job I ever had outside of the agency that I currently co-own, um, was think and act like an owner. I remember this coming from one of the executives at the company, and that they said, and I remember this is so many years ago, even when it comes to turning off the idea that there's cost associated with keeping the lights on, right? So think about this as if you were the owner, even though you're an employee. So what I take away from that is, and I instill it in my team, and it's not always going to happen, but you hope it does, is really, like, even though I know the folks that work for me are not owners of the business, I still want them to act like they're owners, meaning I want them to take complete ownership over what they do, right? And so I think for me, it was just learning at an early age that even though I don't have the title of owner, the way I ascend in my career is taking ownership and acting like I am, even though I'm not an owner, right? Because I think you're always sort of dressing not for necessarily the present position, but it's the future position that you want to be in, right? It's kind of like you're working towards something greater than what you have today. And in order to do that, you have to kind of step up and act that way and deliver.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that's one of the benefits. One mind could think that if someone's telling you that, they're telling you that for their own benefit, right? If you're, of course, obviously you're not the owner, and I want you to act like it. Well, I'm not getting the financial benefit. I don't have the freedom, but you still want me to have this mindset. And I think a lot of people miss the mark where is that the more you sharpen that blade, when it is your turn to be an owner, when it is your turn to have that responsibility, you're already in the mindset of doing it because you've already always been a steward of that element of your job. So I love that you say that. So talk to me a little bit more about the business and the agency that you guys co-own currently. I know you said you and Mr. Nelson are now are business partners in that. And so exactly what it is that you guys do, how do you guys go about doing it, and what does life look like in your agency?
Yeah, we're a growth marketing agency. Specifically, we specialize in digital marketing. So we're buying media across Google, Meta, Microsoft, Bing, TikTok, LinkedIn, Pinterest. Those are the major platforms that we're buying on. We're managing about $220 in media spend a year. That's what we're tracking towards this year, maybe closer to 230, but about 220 million. And that those advertising dollars are being deployed across those different channels. So we help businesses scale through digital marketing on those channels. So you have a product or service and you're looking to reach consumers. We help you do that by targeting them on these different platforms with the expectation and goal that we're going to help you generate sales if you're a consumer based business, or if you're a B2B company, helping you create qualified pipeline of leads. And so clients come to us and they are basically helping. They're saying, we need help in customer acquisition. We need to grow our sales pipeline. We need to grow revenue. We need you to do this for us but also not just generate sales and pipeline. We need you to do it at a certain cost, right? We need to be efficient. We need to be profitable. We need to acquire customers at a certain dollar value. So our business is very performance driven. So we get budget, and in exchange for that budget, we have to drive results that are all very easily measured.
Awesome. And so, and please, okay, if you can clarify for me, or do you guys create the creatives for the advertising dollars that you guys are responsible for?
Yeah, so performance creative or creative strategy is a big component to what we do in addition to media buying. I would say for about 60% of the clients that we work with, we are designing the ads. The other 40% have an in-house team of folks that will do it, and they don't need us to do it for them. But it's about 60% of the time we're designing creative to support primarily social media campaigns, right? Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So those are typically, static or video assets that we're producing for those clients.
And so, are you guys? And I don't want to get too. Let me know when this is too technical, or if it's too in the weeds for you, because I'm intrigued by this. Because once upon a time, I like to do. I do all my own graphics. I do all my own digital stuff. And so, when I get a chance to talk to people who serve in this capacity, it's interesting to me just to see, how they're operating. But like, do you guys also create the campaigns on behalf of the companies, or do the companies come to you guys with the campaigns already drawn up, and then they partner with you to create the creative?
Yeah, so we do everything soup to nuts. So we're building the campaigns. We are optimizing the campaigns. We're coming up with, if it's a Google campaign, we're sort of coming up with the keywords that we want to target. We're also coming up with the negative keywords that we don't want to include in our campaign. So we're doing everything. It's really, you come to us, you say, I have this budget that I want to spend. We basically decide which channels based on the target demographic we're trying to reach make most sense, and we're going to basically deploy that budget across one channel or more, and then we'll understand what your goals and objectives are, right? And we will manage and optimize towards those desired goals and objectives, right? And we're providing reporting. We're building out all the tracking infrastructure needed to support those campaigns. We're meeting with you on a weekly basis to give you updates on progress, things like that. So I would say someone comes to us and says, hey, we have no media buying experience. We need you to do everything from building the campaigns to building the creative assets to, reporting on it, things like that.
And so, I guess in that type of business, what were some tips and strategies? Again, a lot of my listeners are either leaders in their current space, or they're entrepreneurs like yourself. And it sounds like you have built a profitable business. What are some of the things that you guys implement in terms of just retention strategies or engagement strategies to keep your staff motivated to do the work that you do?
Yeah, so you're talking about retention of client or employees or
Employees,
both? Yeah, so
employees.
that is I would say as an entrepreneur, attracting and retaining talent is probably the most difficult thing, frankly. In particular, in a post-COVID environment, I think it's gotten increasingly more difficult. Um, and so for us, when we onboard someone, we make sure that that onboarding is very sort of thought out, right, for that particular employee, for the role that they're playing on the team. So we come up with a very specific plan for the first 90 days. It's their first impression of the company. So we want to be very organized with what the plan is for them. And so that we have a very detailed 90-day onboarding plan that we provide each employee. And in that onboarding plan, it has a list of things that they should be focusing on and milestones that they should be achieving along the way. And so for the first 30 days, we'll let them sort of attack that plan. We'll probably, talk to them, twice a week and provide guidance, answer questions, and support them in whatever they need. And then we'll sit down with them after the first 30 days to review that and then talk about the next 30 days. And then we do that after the first 60 days, right? So for us, it's really being clear on what it is that they want to achieve in their role. So for me, I always like to sit down with people and say, okay, what are your goals? What are your professional goals, right? Financially, in terms of skills that you want to develop and improve upon. What are some of the goals that you have that you want to achieve? And what is your timeline, right? So then we can work together to create a plan to help you achieve those goals. So it's really understanding what fulfillment means to them, what their goals and objectives are in this role, and then working with them to design a plan to be able to achieve those, and then checking in with them periodically. So that's one thing we do, and I think that's important as it relates to checking the box in terms of career advancement, fulfillment, etc. And it's also just building relationships. At the end of the day, I don't like to overcomplicate things. Really, what we try to do is just build relationships with our team, and what that means is spending time with them, right? Talking to them, not just about work, but about other things, right? If they have interests, dogs or travel or whatever, like get to know them more intimately and just build relationships with them, right? Spend time together in person. We do that a lot. We find that that accelerates relationship building, right? We're in the office 3 days a week and working remote 2 days a week. When we're in the office together, we're having lunch together. We're going for coffee together. We're taking walks together. Yesterday, I took one of my staff members golfing. He really likes to golf. We went out and golfed. And I know that that for him was a break from work and something that he thoroughly enjoys. With two young kids, he doesn't get out much. So it's like finding opportunities to do things that will bring you closer together and build deeper connections. And I think that's what people are seeking out. They need to, ascend in their career. They need to uh, get greater responsibility, be challenged, learn, make more money. All of those things are important, but they also have to like the people they're working with, because it's not necessarily easy every day. The job is demanding. There are moments of high stress. And so when you have good relationships with people, um, it makes it much easier to get through those difficult times.
Oh, I 100% agree, and you're honestly giving a masterclass on what a entrepreneur or a business should prioritize as it relates to how do you take care of your people. I couldn't agree with you more. You mentioned that this post COVID environment for attracting talent is one of the hardest that we've probably seen in a very long time, in decades, in terms of people's willingness to work, and this concept of quiet quitting, and people not giving their best, or not thinking that they have, or people not thinking that they have anything to offer. And so when you create an environment as an employer that makes people feel valued, make people feel welcome, and I love how you said that first impression of your business, when you are intentional as you guys are, or what you guys sound like you are, in terms of creating an impression that's lasting for those folks for those first 90 days. You're going to create a bond that's going to be pretty hard to break, or it's going to be, if it is broken, it's something that you don't want to see be broken. Next question I have is that we're talking a lot about people, and I want to sit here for a second. What are some of those key qualities, if you can give me the top three things when you're seeking out talent? And I know this might be different from position to a position, or what level that they exist in your organization, but what are three maybe like non-negotiable qualities for Borja, in terms of, hey, this person has these three things, I gotta hire them, or what are some things like they do this and I just can't hire them based on that? What are some of those things for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, um, it's a really good question. I think attitude is really something that comes to mind. Having the right attitude and perspective on things is definitely one thing, right? I want people that understand what it means to have a job, right? Understand what it means to work for a company that has high standards, right? Someone that doesn't get sort of stressed easily, that has the ability to manage through stressful times. So attitude for me is big. I also think work ethic is really important. I think someone that is really focused on the mission, committed to the mission, doesn't worry about things that don't have anything to do with their job, right? Just is able to not is sort of able to just eliminate any distractions. And I think adaptability is really important. Um, because I think like working for a small company or a large company, I have a small company, I think you have to be adaptable, right? So like some days are going to be good and some days are going to be bad. There is no such thing as every day at a company is going to be fun, right? I, as an owner, have many days where I don't feel like going to work. Right. But I'm driven by the opportunity and the challenge and the passion that I have. Right. And also the responsibility to the team that I have to create this business and build it. Right. So I think if you have the right mindset and understanding that, listen, uh, I'm not going to love everything that is spelled out in this job description. I'm going to like 90% of it, but there's always 10% of every job that we hate. Like I hate a lot of aspects of my job, but I don't complain about it. I accept it. I embrace it as part of what it is to be an owner. And it's the same for anybody else. So I think for me, it's all of those things. It's mindset slash attitude, it's adaptability, it's work ethic, and then lastly, I like people that contribute, that get stuff done. Right, like at the end of the day, that's the advice I would give someone is get stuff done. Right, like just contribute, and if you do that, people will take notice and they will acknowledge and recognize it, hopefully, if they're running a good business, and you will get opportunities.
No, that's spot on. I love, 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 and it was one of the things that we talk about in our business. Just the ability to be agile, that adaptability that you speak of. You know, a lot of times there, I find people want to be rigid and they want things to go the same way every day. Every day is not a cookie cutter situation. You've got to be able to pivot from one. That's the whole point of this show. The pivot experience is about having the tools and the skills and the mindset to be able to. If you might get thrown a curveball, what are you going to do? Are you going to try to approach that same situation like it's a fastball? You're gonna have to make some adjustments. So I absolutely love that. Can you maybe go back in the archives a little bit for you yourself, as an entrepreneur, and maybe talk about an instance where maybe a an employee relationship didn't go the way you had wanted it to go? I might look. I see your facial expression there. I might be touching the nerve a little bit. I hope I'm not. But
Nope.
but just talk about like maybe a situation where you had an employee that you liked a lot, but it was they did something. You don't have to specify what they did, but you had to maybe part ways from that relationship. Can you talk about that, and then how did it make you feel? And not but and why did you do it? Like, what was the necessity of you making that decision?
So an employee that I liked who did something I didn't like, or
Yes,
is that the?
that you had to, because a lot of times, and let me
Yeah, yeah,
preface the questions about this. Like a lot of times, I observe in the market where we have leaders who it it's difficult for them to make the decision that they need to make as it relates to people. Now, not just saying being trigger happy, right? But like sometimes good people do bad things, and we have to deal with those things. And when it's a
yeah.
repeated offense, like I think a lot of folks have a hard time dealing with that. So, what is something that situation that you've had, and how did you deal with it? And then how did you deal with the feelings of it?
Yeah, I mean, there's always so many scenarios. So when you ask the question, I have to think about it, right? Because there's been so many examples of that. Not so many, but there's several, right? So I have to draw from the memory bank. So for me, I will say this: I'm not very sensitive. Uh, just part of my characteristic or the way I am. I'm kind of transactional, not very emotional. I do have one sensitive button, and that's negativity. I do not like people spreading negativity within my organization. It's like poison. Okay. I don't care if you're a top producer, top performer. If you become negative, I want to eliminate you from that organization very quickly. Right. So that is something that I don't believe in. I have worked at companies, I have been an employee at companies where I had friends who worked for the same company who would be negative. We'd get together for lunch or coffee and they would just complain until one day I said, "Hey, I understand you don't like working here and I can respect that, but I do like working here. And so you talking about this is not enjoyable for me because it's not, we have a different belief in the environment here. So I just ask that you stop doing it or let's not have lunch together because what you're doing is you're ruining it for someone who is happy here. So you have a choice. And that's what I always say. No one is forcing you at gunpoint to stay here. So if you don't like it, leave, because you being here and speaking badly about leadership and the business is not like professional. It's very, it lacks maturity, right? I think what you should do is, this is your journey. You should go and do something else because you're not happy. That's an okay thing to do. But staying here and complaining and being victim does not sit well with me. So that relates to my business. I've had an employee or two who were here, and for them, for whatever reason, they had issues with things, and they were good employees, but I think some of their perspective on things was very negative, right? Whether it was a process we had or a decision that was made, and they were trying to influence other people in a negative way. And those people were actually okay with it here. And so I had to sit down with them and I had to say, hey, listen, I know through third party that you're responsible for bringing negativity to this culture, and I don't want you to do that. Right? I don't think it's appropriate. I mean, I can't control what you say. It's freedom of speech, but me hearing it requires me to take action and address it directly with you. Right? Now, you can do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, if this continues, there are going to be repercussions, right? Because you're not really creating the environment we want, right? And I'm not saying you can't have complaints. We all had complaints as employees, and that's okay, but make it productive. Don't make it like don't do the opposite, right? You're entitled not to like everything about the job, and I encourage you to voice that. I don't expect you to like everything about this job, and I don't expect you to retire at this company. This won't be your last job, but I do think there's a right and a wrong way to do it. So the one thing I would ask is you to express yourself in a way that isn't so negative and poisonous to the culture that we're trying to create here.
No, I love that. A lot of times people seem like they want to talk just to be heard and not to find a solution. If you've got something that you want to address in the organization, bring it to someone who can at least one give you an understanding of why this is the way it is, or two, just hear you out and actually create a solution for it. Because a lot of times what employees don't realize is that some of the complaints are valid. And then this might be a blind spot that we have organizationally, that something we're not seeing, but bring it to me in a constructive manner. I love that. And so I want to talk now, instead of we get out of the archives and go to the future of 415 Digital. What are some big things on the horizon for you guys, and where are you guys headed over the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't look too far out there, to be frank with you. Every leader is a little bit different. Um, I tend to have maybe a 12 to maybe 24 month horizon max. Right now, the focus for us is on expanding our team. So we opened an office in Mexico about a year ago. We really want to build that team out. So we're hiring very aggressively in that market for specific roles. So it's building the team. And in addition to that, I would say it's building out our service offerings to include other things that clients have come to us and said they could use some assistance in this. So, like, one of the questions we'll ask a client periodically is, "Hey, is there something that we are not providing to you that could bring value to you, or that you are now using a third party to do?" So that could include, I mean, postal mail, right? Which is very different than what we're doing, right? Direct mail is the antithesis of digital marketing, but some of our companies are actually doing it. So we've started to do that a little bit. It's email for outbound acquisition, right? That isn't digital marketing, but it's another medium online that we've started talking about more with our customers as a way to, acquire leads or customers. So that is something else. So for us, it's like the constant evaluation of the different service offerings we could provide them to allow us to build deeper relationships and get into bed with them more, right? Because I think the more reliance they have on us to solve their problems, the more the more likely they are to stay with us as a customer, right? The less we do for them and the less problems we solve for them, the easier it is for them to break up with us. So for us, it's how many more problems can we solve for them? How can we bring value to them? How can we help them achieve their goals? And the more we do that, the more likely they are to stay with us. And frankly, that's one of the reasons we have such great retention rates, well above the industry average. Our average customer stays with with us for about 32 months, which in the agency business, it's actually quite impressive.
No, that's a long time. I was going to say, you might squeeze out a 6-month campaign and they say, hey, thanks, I appreciate it and move on. But for you to have 32 months on average, that's pretty strong. That says that you're doing something right in your business. That says that you're treating your customers right, and you're obviously treating your employees right. Because that's translating into what the experience is for your clients. And so, Borja, I've enjoyed this conversation. I really have. Before we get out of here, I got a curveball I want to throw at you. I want to see how adaptable you are. Okay, I've got a little game that I like to play. It's called Tug-of-war. Usually, I reserve this game for a virtual session that we host monthly, every fourth Sunday of the month. But I want to bring it here just to see how it goes. And so, you're going to be one of our first podcast guests, just the natural podcast guests that go through this. And so, I'm going to give you 2 words. You have to choose one, and you have to choose why you chose the one over the other. Okay, it's about 4 sets of words. So, you ready? Ready to
Yep.
go? All right. So here we go. First sets of words is empathy or accountability.
Empathy. Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually something that did not have much of as a leader, that I learned was critical in being an effective leader. It is one of the things that I look back on as something that I learned, right? Leadership evolves, and having that quality or characteristic of being empathetic is absolutely required to build relationships and to understand people and to retain employees. A leader without empathy is not going to do very well. So that one, I think, off the bat, I think is just a critical. It's a requirement.
No, I agree with you. Honestly, I thought you was going to say accountability based off of you saying that your personality is transactional. I thought you would have leaned in towards that, but empathy, no, I can't agree more. All right. Second, innovation or consistency.
Um, I think innovation. These are good. Both of these are in both cases. It's like I hate one or the other. Why can't it be both? But you asked me, it has to be one, right? So I think innovation, I think you can't rest on your laurels. I think in life, you have to constantly test the boundaries. You have to improve. You have to look towards the future. You have to, as we do, expand your service offerings. You have to get better. You have to look for new ways to, um, you know, uh, to do the things you're doing. So I think for us, like I would say innovation, like if you just stay as you are and don't innovate, I think you're going to be, the competition's going to outpace you, and eventually your business is going to start going down to zero.
No, definitely agree.
What are
Okay.
your answers, by the way? Am I allowed to ask questions, or
Yeah.
this is your
No,
podcast?
no. You're good. So right now we're 2 for 2, you and I.
Okay, okay, okay.
Because for me, I do lean into accountability, but I'm in a people business, and I think just everyone has a story. Everybody has something, everybody has a way of thinking about things. There's always a perspective that I think leaders who lack empathy lack emotional intelligence. And I think that you have to be highly emotionally intelligent to deal with people, and I would imagine if I was to probably put myself in your shoes, you're going from business owner to business owner, trying to understand what are they trying to say their brand is. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times, and please correct me if I'm wrong, like a lot of the businesses you might encounter might not understand what their brand voice is. And so you exercising the level of empathy to try to understand who they are, and understand like where they're coming from. I think even though that's not a traditional application of empathy, I think it allows you to get more connected to the client, and so that's one area where I think empathy is important. But also too, as you're building the relationships with either the third party contractors that you use or the actual people that work in your business, having that empathy just being empathetic and vulnerable will allow them to have more than an affinity and attachment to what you're doing. You're going to go further faster when you have people who realize that you care about them more than just the number, more than just their mistakes. Accountability, yes, we need it, but it more speaks to just making sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? And you do need that. That I agree with that. I'm not saying that you don't, but I think that's more important to be empathetic. And I just wanted to give you some explanation just to tell you, like, I'm not just saying I agree with you on the
Yeah.
words. I have my. And then when it comes down to innovation, I believe that we always have to keep our businesses fresh, particularly in today's time. You mentioned getting started in 1998, where the internet was a relatively new thing, and you leaned into it before it was even a proven concept. So you've already had shown that this is a part of who you are. It's a part of your fabric, and I think now, in some sense, over the last, like, maybe, and really going back to the COVID era. COVID has kind of, it didn't really introduce the internet, but it made some things about the internet feel fresh and feel new. And so I think that even this podcast, right? Even podcasting in general, the genesis, I mean, podcast has been around for a very long time, but really COVID, a little bit before COVID and forward, podcasts have become the new news medium, and
Hmm.
it has given people like myself and like you the opportunity to get their voices out there, to get their stories out there. Like, there's so many different things like that has come from innovation. Like, I keep saying, like, I apologize for that because I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited about what we're talking about. But it's just that we walk around with
I like it.
supercomputer. We walk around with supercomputers in our pocket. That is off of the strength of innovation. Like, almost today, there's no excuse to do something when you have one of these at your disposal. You know what I mean? When you have that, and of course you got to match you got to have some passion, you got to have some principle, you got to have some discipline. But I think innovation. Again, we're 2 for 2. We'll see what you got to say on these next two. But right now, me and you are on the same page. Now, next question. Well, next set of words is clear expectation or freedom.
I'm always going to pick the number one, it seems. I think clear expectations, it depends. I mean, uh, I think you can't have freedom without clear expectations, but I think clear expectations is the start of any relationship. It's kind of like trust is a foundation, but for me, client or employee, we need to be clear on what the expectations are of each other. The client will have expectations of me, and I will have expectations of them. They will need to provide me with things. I will need to provide them with things. The only way this is successful is if we both come to the table with what we need to do to make the outcome what we want it to be. And it's the same for employees. Like, they need to be clear on how they're being evaluated. They need to be clear on what we need from them, and vice versa. I need to be clear on what they need from me to be successful. So I think clear expectations at the onset of any relationship to kick it off is just a great way to set yourself up for a longer term relationship, and also a healthier relationship. I think if you go in there blind and don't have that conversation, I think there's going to be a lot of friction, misalignment, which will lead to bad outcomes. So I would say uh, clear expectations.
And see, I think this is where we have a little bit of a difference now, because I would roll with freedom. And the thing is, and so I 100% agree. If you're in that beginning phase, that first 90 days, clear expectations are imperative.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times that's why I'm not really involved in first 90-day activities. Me as an individual, because I do feel like some of the greatest results have been generated when you give somebody the play box, the sandbox, to say, here's some guardrails, but everything within the guardrails you can go and create. You can go and think about. You identify the solutions, or identify the opportunities and create the solutions. And so there we go. We've got a little. I like when we have some, just a little
Yeah,
bit. Just a little
different
bit.
perspectives.
Yeah. So last one, results or relationships. I think I know the answer to this one.
This Yeah, I mean, this is easy. This is 25 years of experience, and it's kind of not disputable. I think both are important, but here's the bottom line. This is business, and at the end of the day, if you are my client, and we're going to use you as an example, and you're going to answer the question for me, you're going to love hanging out with me, right? whatever we do together, share a meal, go to a concert, we're going to have fun. I hope you like me, but I think you would, right? So we're going to have fun. Box will be checked. Now we're going to have a lot of fun, but I'm not going to make your business grow. It's actually going to go down, right? Over time, you're going to say, I like you, we can be friends, but I need to find a new agency. So the answer is results, because you need both. And the reason relationship matters to me, and why we do both, is because if I fail you the first time, if we have a good relationship, you'll give me a second chance, right? Maybe a third chance. But if I have no relationship and I underperform for you, you're probably going to get rid of me, right? So relationship matters to a degree. That's kind of like, you got to have a relationship, but people are under immense pressure to perform in their roles at a company, and if we are not helping them be successful and making them look good, we are getting axed.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'm a results driven guy. So it's the numbers and that's what empower the thing. We don't have a business if we don't have results, but Borja, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for carving some time out to spend with me and my audience. Before we get out of here, how can, if they're listening to this and they have a company and they want to connect with you and do business with you, or just generally follow your journey, how do they get connected with you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Borja Cuan, at Borja Cuan on LinkedIn, BorjaCuan. 415 Digital is our corporate website, FOUR15digital.com. There's a contact us form. Happy to evaluate any business that it comes from this podcast and do kind of a free audit or a free plan. If people are interested in us taking a look at what they're doing online and giving them our recommendations, happy to do that.
Oh, awesome. Well, there you guys have it, TPE family. Hopefully something was said. Actually, it's not even hopefully. I know something was said. I was sitting here listening to this young man, and I'm thankful to be recording, because I always will have access to this wisdom that was just shared today. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. You guys can catch this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Be sure to share this with your friends, because if they are in the mindset of being an entrepreneur, this is the conversation that they need to hear. Again, TPE family, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I just want to slip this in right quick so you'll never forget. It's all about progress over perfection here at TPE.
Tap into the Pivot Experience, where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.